Hello and welcome to Mindful Living, where we explore the art of living with the intention, balance, and inner peace. I am Avik, your host, guiding you through conversations on health, meditation, mental well being, mindfulness, and the mind body connection. Each episode features expert insights to help you grow, heal, and thrive. So, take a deep breath, relax, and join us on this journey to a more mindful and fulfilling life. So, let's get started.
Hello and welcome, listeners, to the Mindful Living, the podcast where we explore the path to mindfulness, balance, and living with intention. I'm your host, Sana, and today's episode is all about the profound concept of oneness. What does it mean to embrace oneness in our lives? And how can this mindset transform the way we experience the world around us? And we are honored today to have a truly special guest with us, TeZa Lord. Welcome to the show, TeZa.
Well, thank you for having me, and welcome to everybody who's listening.
Great. So, listeners, before we move on to our discussion for today, I would love to introduce my guest to all of you. TeZa Lord is a public advocate for spreading positive thought, a lifelong practitioner of yoga and meditation, and the co host of the long running spiritual podcast, TeZa Lord. And TeZa have dedicated their life to sharing the transformative power of love and connection, whether through their loving nature community or their deeply insightful YouTube meditations. TeZa is on fire for the cause of love and unity in the world. And TeZa is also a published author, a vibrant voice for healing, and a powerful testament to overcoming life's darkest challenges. So, listeners, please welcome our guest, TeZa Lord. And TeZa, it's an honor to have you with us today.
Well, I'm honored to be here. It's such a privilege to talk about, like you said, the profound subject of oneness, which we all need to talk about more.
Exactly. Exactly. So, you, of course, you speak a lot about oneness and the power it holds in shaping our lives. So, can you share with us what exactly oneness means to you and how it became such an integral part of your philosophy?
Well, I remember very distinctly the first time somebody described oneness to me. It was a girlfriend, and I was quite young, and she had become a meditator before I did, and she was trying to explain what the experience was with oneness, and I just couldn't get it. And she said, you just have to experience it. And so I wanted to experience it, and so I learned to meditate. And it's one of those concepts like love, which oneness is. How do we describe love? Well, there's many, many different ways. And in the English language, it's not only a verb, but it's a noun. And there are so many varieties of that emotion or that action, that state of being called love. But oneness is a pretty good description of it. When you are not in the state of fear, you are in the state of love. And that is oneness. And then you can see that we are all connected, that this is all one consciousness that we are experiencing, even though some of us still have problems thinking, oh no, we're separate. I'm an individual. My name is such. I have characteristics. I'm different than them. But the more you experience oneness, just by wanting it, you will overcome these barriers, and you will see that those are all just mental constructs. And oneness is really, truly the one state of being in life. And I'm not just saying this to try to convince people. This is my state of awareness. This is my chosen state of being.
Hmm. Interesting, Tessa. And you have had an incredible personal journey from overcoming self destructive addictions to becoming an advocate for love and spiritual awakening. How did the idea of oneness play a role in your transformation?
Well, I do believe that oneness is the highest high, the ultimate state of being. And so, as a former addict, I mean, I don't use the word former too often, but in this context, talking about my role today in the recovery rooms of AA and worldwide 12-step fellowship, we never use the word recovered. You are always in a state of recovery. You're always in a state of discovery, and you're substituting for the bad addictions, you're substituting good addictions, healthy addictions, positive addictions. And so, in my experience, oneness, when I first experienced it, it actually was through a psychedelic experience. I'll not be shy about that. And meditation is how to sustain it. Meditation is the answer for anybody who wants to experience oneness. But I was a very impatient person as a young person, and I wanted it right away. So I started doing what they call today plant medicines. I also was in the field of researching plant medicines. I was a botanical illustrator for Harvard botanists, and we were studying deeply the indigenous use of plant medicine, which has been going on since time immemorial. So when I first experienced oneness, I just said, this is the true state that I remember as a child, because it is the same as early childhood, where everything was connected. We all remember that.
Great. And in your work with the loving nature community, you emphasize spreading love energy. How do you see oneness influencing how we interact with others and the world around us?
I don't really understand that question. The loving nature community is about honoring nature, and environmentalism to me is the most important aspect of being a spiritual being today. If that's what you're getting at. It's not just self-realization. It's just not personal happiness. It's not just that feeling of success or a state of being in the world. But once you have the awakening that we are all connected through consciousness, not through other things, I'm not necessarily, not geographically and not politically and maybe not other way culturally, but through consciousness, we are all connected. Then this awareness it almost brings us to a responsibility of being stewards for the earth and being environmentally conscious. So it's not just like the old days, like especially, being in India, and I am a yogi, so I understand all the yogic scriptures and, they have been great teachers. But the old days of going to seek the cave master and being in meditation for, eons before you're given initiation, there's no time for that. That's old fashioned.
Yes.
The new style of spirituality is to get awakened as fast as you can, however you can, and seek teachers, seek books, seek podcasts, seek this, seek that, and experience that oneness as fast as you can. And then here's the magic. You sustain it. You sustain it through a really profound meditation experience that doesn't have to be sitting even. It has to be being connected with your consciousness, breath by breath, awareness by awareness, being aware of awareness. So I hope that answered your question.
Definitely. More than that. Great. And Teza, as a co-host of the TeZa Lord podcast, you have spent years discussing spirituality and personal growth. How do you incorporate the idea of oneness into your conversations and teachings?
Well, oneness is the basis of happiness. When you have succeeded in experiencing oneness, and you have done your best to sustain that experience through the disciplines of good company. That's number one, besides even a meditation practice. Have good company, have wise choices, turn off the screen when the news comes. Read it if you must, but don't listen to somebody telling you how awful the world is when you have your own way of interpreting what's called the news. And so you sustain this experience, and then even something like our podcast was begun to document a 6-month journey that we took starting in 2019. My husband and I love to be in nature. So we took a 6-month camping trip, literally every night experiencing a different set of variables, different locale, different people, different weather, always just living very simply out of a tent and traveling from thousands of miles. And this was all before the pandemic. So wherever we went, we felt the oneness because we were living in nature. It's so much easier if you have an experience with nature, whether it's a plant on your windowsill or if you're actually able to go to a park and take a forest bath and just feel the vibrations of nature. That's the easiest way. So our podcast started as exploring what this camping trip was going to be. And we always ended up with spiritual questions and spiritual issues because that's the kind of people we are. You can't talk about anything with Carter, that's my husband of 33 years, and myself without talking about the divine, the sacred, how we are spiritual beings in this physical experience. And then, of course, when the pandemic began, we decided to go into the inner journey. So what started as basically a travel podcast with oneness as its theme, it became a spiritual podcast because we were mostly sitting on our couch during the entire length of the pandemic. And then after the pandemic, we just interspersed it with traveling and reflection. And wherever we go, we can see oneness. So we talk about it in different aspects. For instance, we took a many-month trip to South America. We went to Bolivia, Uruguay, and Patagonia. And there again, we're nature people. So instead of going to the cities and seeing museums and sitting at cafes and mingling with people, we prefer to go to the outskirts of cities and mingle with people who have less materialist, like central thinking. And so that's the theme of our podcast. But you can experience oneness right in the middle of a traffic jam, or being a very busy city dweller, because I've lived in many cities and my husband has too. But nature definitely makes it easier. It provides little secrets like silence. Silence is a good way to experience oneness.
Definitely. Wow, that sounds interesting and lovely, TeZa. And of course, it's evident from your journey, the message you are trying to convey, that modern spirituality and environmentalism are connected. How do you see oneness reflecting our relationship with nature and environment?
Well, I explore that in my latest book called The Bridge Tender, which just won a beautiful award, the Global Book Award for Visionary and Metaphysical Novel of the Year. And to experience oneness, one must surrender to it, however it comes. And this story in The Bridge Tender is very much like our world today, where things are not easy, things are challenging. We have a lot of challenges and crises and trauma and et cetera, wars and people who insist on controlling other people or those who are too weak and let themselves be controlled. So this novel, The Bridge Tender, it has one person who experiences all that. And I truly do believe that is the commonality of all humans, is not just the fact that we are spiritual beings, but we all have an addiction of some sort. So whether it's a positive addiction, like in this day and age, I am addicted to the divine, to spreading love. So that's a, so-called healthy addiction. Whereas in the past, I was very self-loathing. I had a lot of trauma from my childhood. It wasn't like, oh, poor me, but that was just the set of variables I was given in order to explore life's possibilities. So nothing is really negative or positive. It just is what is. And oneness can be seen as a positive thing, or, I mean, if somebody wants to put a negative spin on that, there's going to be someone to do that.
Yeah.
Let them try.
Okay, great. And TeZa, for our listeners who are completely new to this concept of oneness, what practical steps can they take to start living more mindfully and aligned with the idea that we are one?
Uh-huh. Well, I make little videos and I put them up on my YouTube channel, and they're called mind stillers, because the mind can either be our best friend or our worst enemy. And when our mind has been stilled enough to reach that true center of our being, which is oneness, connected with all and everything, then we are in a state of bliss. We're in what the yogis call Satchidananda. The light of knowing results in a state of bliss. So if anybody wants to learn how to do that, it's good to seek it out. First, you have to have the desire. You have to really say to yourself, wow, I want to know what oneness is. And then you go on a journey and you explore the myriad ways of attaining that. There are so many wonderful teachers. My favorite modern teacher is Eckhart Tolle. I think he's, like myself, he went to hell and back. So people who have really experienced trauma and depression and self-destructiveness, they are better able to explain to people who are wanting to achieve this state of that everything is okay the way it is, whatever it is. And Eckhart is one of those, and I am one of those. But a lot of spiritual teachers these days, they come from a place of perhaps they were born already having this understanding, and that's marvelous. That's wonderful. They can ignite as many people as they can, like Amma, who goes around the world hugging people. And you get a hug from Amma, and sometimes people just, they get it. They're totally in that state of bliss. But then there's other people who have more monkey minds, like I did, saying, well, how's one hug going to change my life? How is one book going to change my life? How's one podcast guest going to change my life? So the skeptics need to be surrounded with good friends, good energy, good intentions, healthy food, all that stuff. And today, there's so many awakened people in this movement for consciousness. I call it a revolution. It's a consciousness revolution. There are so many people. All you have to do is go to the internet or YouTube, especially, and type in awareness or how to find oneness. And it pops up like probably 50,000 teachers.
Yeah. And finally, your life has been a testament to transformation, TeZa, and your motto is love is the weapon of mass illumination. What final message would you like to leave our listeners when it comes to living with love, unity, and mindfulness?
Well, like I said earlier, you're either in a state of love, which oneness is, or you're in a state of fear. And it's up for each one of us to decide where we're at any given moment. And we do that by asking ourselves, like a little self-check, like a little scan. How am I doing? Am I relaxed? Am I content? Then you're in a state of love. If you're feeling worried, sad, or afraid, like filled with some negative emotion, like trepidation, oh my God, what's going to happen next? That is in a state of fear. And so then if you can say that you are in a state of fear, you have some work to do. You have a beckoning, because you can be in a state of relaxation, joy, peace, even if you're experiencing hell, even if you're in the middle of a horrendous situation. It has to do with how you are perceiving the situation. It is not just like a sentence you have to be living through. You can actually say that oneness is a joyful gift that you have been given for this short time. And what a glorious thing when you wake up to that, and it just changes a gloomy day into a sunlit one, wherever you are, whatever you're going through.
True, absolutely true. And TeZa, if our listeners want to connect with you, explore the work, the marvelous work you're doing to spread the power of oneness, how can they do that? So,
I invite everybody to board my mothership at TeZaLord.com. And I spell my name with a Z, with a Z, I guess you would say, TeZaLord.com. And everything's there. Our podcast, The Mind Still, is on YouTube, my books, my art, my visionary art, my botanical illustrations. It's just chock full with all sorts of information.
super, super. We'll have all the details mentioned in the show notes for our listeners to have access. And TeZa, thank you so much for sharing your incredible journey and your powerful wisdom with all of us today. And it's evident that your passion for spreading love and fostering a sense of oneness, it's truly inspiring.
It's my pleasure to talk to you, and I just encourage everybody to join this journey, and not just to be alone, but bring everybody you love along with it, because really the world needs all the light warriors, love warriors that we can get right now.
Exactly, exactly, absolutely. Wow. And listeners, I'm very sure you have gained so much from TeZa's insights. And for those who are wanting to learn more, be sure to check out TeZa's work at TeZaLord.com, and don't miss their YouTube channel filled with meditative mind stillers. You can refer the show notes along with this episode on your favorite podcast platform. And as we wrap up today's episode, let's carry forward the message that love and unity are powerful tools for healing ourselves and the world. This is the need of the time. And until next time, keep embracing mindfulness, stay connected, and remember that we are all one. And thank you so much, everyone, for tuning into this episode of Mindful Living. This is your host, Sana, signing off.